We now identify the quadrants in which the terminal point of each arc lies based on the given trigonometric ratios. So in part A, we see that cos x is positive and tangent x is negative. So for this, we'll be utilizing this cast diagram. So in this diagram, in first quadrant, all trigonometric ratios are positive. In second quadrant, sine and reciprocal ratio is positive. That is, sine and cosecant are positive. And in third quadrant, tangent and its reciprocal ratio, which is cotangent, is positive. And in the fourth quadrant, only the cos and its reciprocal ratio, that is secant, is positive. So we will be placing this cast diagram to determine in which quadrant cosecant is positive and tangent is negative. So first, let's identify where cosecant is positive. Cosecant is positive in first as well as in fourth quadrant. However, we will also have to know that tangent x should be negative. So tangent is negative in second as well as fourth quadrant, because tangent is positive only in third quadrant as well as in the first quadrant. That means it is negative in second quadrant as well as in the fourth quadrant. So we see that only in fourth quadrant this cos is positive, cos x is positive, as well as tangent x is negative. So we choose or we write down this as fourth quadrant. Let's do part B. That is, tangent is positive and cosecant is negative. Let's mark the quadrant in which tangent is positive. So tangent is positive in third quadrant as well as in first quadrant. And then we have to choose cosecant is negative. So cosecant is negative wherever sine is negative. Sine is negative in third quadrant as well as in the fourth quadrant. So clearly we see that only in third quadrant tangent is positive as well as the cosecant is negative. So we write down quadrant 3 for this part B. We now do part C, that is cotangent is positive as well as secant is positive. Cotangent is positive wherever tangent is positive. So tangent is positive in third quadrant as well as in first quadrant. And then secant x is positive wherever cosecant is, the cos is positive. Uh, so cos is positive in first quadrant as well as in fourth quadrant. So we clearly see that only in first quadrant cotangent x is positive as well as secant x is positive. So we say that the answer to this part C is quadrant 1. Let's do part D. That is sin x is negative and secant x is positive. So we can clearly see from this cast diagram, sin x is negative in third quadrant as well as in fourth quadrant, and secant x is positive wherever cos is positive. So cos is positive in fourth quadrant as well as in the first quadrant. So clearly we can see that only in fourth quadrant sin x is negative as well as secant x is positive. So we mark the answer for part D as quadrant 4. Let's do part E. That is secant x is negative and cosecant x is positive. Secant x is negative wherever cosecant is, the cos is negative. Cos is negative in second as well as in third quadrant. So we mark this quadrant as well as this quadrant is negative. That is, secant is negative in quadrant 2 and quadrant 3. And then cosecant is positive. So cosecant is positive wherever sine is positive. So sine is positive in second quadrant as well as in first quadrant. Clearly, we see that only in quadrant 2, secant x is negative and cosecant x is positive. So we mark the answer as quadrant 2 for part E. And finally, we will do part C, part F, that is sin x is negative and cotangent x is positive. Sin x is negative in quadrant 3 as well as in quadrant 4. And then cotangent x is positive wherever tangent is positive. So tangent is positive in quadrant 3 as well as quadrant 1. Clearly, we see that only in quadrant 3, sin x is negative as well as cotangent x is positive. So we mark the answer for part F as quadrant 3. So we have determined the quadrants in which the terminal point of the arc lies.